Defining the appropriate return type for each of our methods helps protect those methods from being used incorrectly. Here are some guidelines to help you return an appropriate and predictable result from your methods. Return a value when you have a simple calculation or other operation that returns a value type. Throw exceptions as needed to provide information to the calling code for validation issues, broken business rules, or other error conditions. The calling code must then catch and handle thrown exceptions. Use a nullable value type instead if the returned result can be a value or null. The null could indicate that the value was not determined and could be used instead of throwing an exception if the exception message isn't needed. Use a ref or out parameter if you need to pass additional information back to the calling code, but can't change the method return type. Use ref if you want to pass in a default value and optionally modify the value in the method. Since the variable is passed by reference, any change to the variable in the method is seen in the calling code. Use out if you don't need to pass in a default value. The method must then set the out parameter. Some coding guidelines consider ref and out parameters to be a code smell, meaning they aren't a recommended technique. This is because it's not obvious that the calling code should check that parameter. It's often best for a method to return data instead of using its parameters to provide that needed data. A tuple or tuple is often a better choice than a ref or out parameter when returning multiple values from a method, especially since C#7 when the tuple received a makeover. Now it's easy to define a tuple, return a tuple, and access its elements. Be sure to use named tuples for clarity. For sets of methods that return similar values, such as validation methods or save-style methods, consider creating a class with a standard and consistent set of properties. Use that class as the return type in those methods. Then return an instance of that class. Defining a common class and standardizing its usage provides a clear and predictable result from your methods. Return an instance of an existing class for methods that find, retrieve, or return objects. Optionally, throw exceptions to provide validation or error condition information to the calling code. Return a nullable reference type if you want to return an instance of a class or null. Note that non-nullable reference types are only available in C#8 or higher. Lastly, if you are following code guidelines that include the CQS or Command Query Separation Principle, your methods should either be a command that performs an action with no return value, or a query that returns data to the caller, but not both. When defining a method that performs an action, use void as the method return type to specify it won't return a value. Then throw exceptions to provide information back to the calling code on validation or error condition information. We've talked a lot about throwing exceptions, but what about catching those exceptions? That's coming up next.